Listen, the thought of losing everything scares us, and many times it keeps us from going after our dreams. We have a goal, we have a vision, and the thought of, okay, if I get to that successful place again and I lose it all and I fail, what does that mean about me, and how can I prevent that from happening? And our mission to prevent losing everything becomes our biggest focus, that we refuse to do the actions that are even going to get us to that place. If you're somebody like me, you've experienced this. I think all of us have had that one time or another where we've been successful, had something work out well for us, and then boom, it came crashing down. We lost everything. I've had this happen about 3 or 4 times, big times in my life. And over the last 3 years, I've actually had it happen in smaller doses about 3 different times. And what I did was this, is I actually started to find the patterns in that. I found the patterns of a few things. One, what am I doing when I start to experience success? What decisions and choices have I made where I let up off the gas? I think that's often what happens, is where we've experienced success, we let up off the gas. And so then we're not aware of what's going on around us. We're not keeping an eye on the cracks and how things can break down and fall down. We're so focused on the feeling of success. It's like an addiction, right? We're like, we get this high that happens, and then we're riding that wave of that high, and then boom, we come crashing down. If you've ever experienced this, you become afraid that if you ever succeed again, that's going to happen. And we get in these cycles where we repeat this same pattern. So what we have to do is this: we have to be intentional. And I started a simple process. I took a notebook and I wrote down what are patterns that have been the same in every time that happened. One of them was taking the opinions of other people way too seriously in my life. Taking the beliefs of what I thought somebody said to me too literally, and putting all of my stock and weight into the opinions and strength and power of other people, meaning I gave up the power of my life choices to somebody else in all of that way. And over the last probably year, I had this happen in a few minor ways where I had quite a bit of success, and then boom, next day, it kind of almost looked like it was going to come crashing down. And I realized, what am I doing in that moment? Well, I'm getting too comfortable. I'm getting into a comfort zone of success. So that was another pattern that I had. And this is not to say don't celebrate your successes, by the way. I was actually not celebrating my successes along the way of the process. And so once I got to the big success, it was like, woo, and it all came crashing down. And so what helped me break that was starting to celebrate the mini successes, the minor successes, the little things. Oftentimes we don't want to have a participation trophy mindset, and so we refuse to celebrate the little wins because we don't want to get so comfortable in that. And here's part of it, because whenever we've celebrated the wins, we come crashing down. And so we don't want to come crashing down at just the little minor steps. That's the cycle. That's the thought process that I got in, where I was afraid to even celebrate the minor wins because I was like, well, I'm not at the place where I want to be yet. And once I'm at this destination, comparing a past and a future vision that I had to my present experience made me afraid, gripped with fear to even take steps forward to grow in my life and in my business. And what broke this was discipline, focus, giving myself the freedom to make mistakes, and embracing every single crash and burn for the lessons that they taught me. So what I did was I started going through all of these experiences. I started going through, what did I feel in those moments right before, and what beliefs came in after that crash and burn, and how was I holding on to those? I was locking myself into these traumatic moments in my life where I felt like, okay, I have to make sure that I never experience this again. My fear of ever experiencing that moment was controlling my everyday actions. And this is what a lot of people go through. This is what a lot of people experience that keeps them stuck in a pattern of negativity, doubt, unbelief in what's possible for them. And when we can come face to face with this is the hard work. We come face to face with that fear, that worry, that trauma, and we look at, okay, what beliefs did I come to grips with? What did I create in my mind? What did I tell myself about what that means? And then we replace it with the truth. Oftentimes what we're believing is not the truth. And that's a kind of a deeper topic right there. We tell ourselves a story about these experiences that end up repeating the pattern. How does it repeat the pattern? It creates a chemical trigger in our brains that we say, I never want to experience that pain again. And so our mission in life is to never experience that. So we're actually putting our energy into not experiencing that pain. Imagine that you're focusing on the road and your whole focus is not hitting the wall on a road. Your whole focus is not hitting other cars. That's crazy. And when that becomes our whole focus, we can't drive. We end up being more likely to hit a wall or hit a car because where our focus is, we go and we veer over into. I've been in some car wrecks before, and I used to be very scared of that. I was in a traumatic car wreck as a kid, and I never realized how much that had impacted me until I kept getting into car wrecks when I was about 19, 20 years old, and realized that my mission was to avoid the car wrecks. When I got out of that and started focusing on my path ahead of me, that stopped. And that's the exact same thing in life. It's a metaphor for life. When we're so focused on what we want to avoid, we become attracted to doing that thing. We become attracted to that pain and that trauma, and that creates that loop, that repeating pattern where we're trying to avoid the pain that we experienced, and we keep recreating the same experience in a new place. And this starts validating, this starts wiring our brain towards, this is my existence. And so the way you shift that is, you just shift your focus just a little bit, not off of hitting the cars, not on hitting the cars, not on, doing everything perfect, saying everything perfect, not on not hitting the wall, but on the road right ahead of you and your destination. When you keep your eyes on the horizon ahead and we follow the process, we trust the process. I trust now that when I get in my car to drive, that it's going to take me to my destination. I trust now that when I come against a roadblock in my business, when I come up against a red flag pattern, I was on the phone with some people over the last week that were actually repeating some red flag patterns that I had in my past. And you know what? I didn't react the way that I used to. I used to become very emotional, very triggered by these experiences, and I would make a fool of myself in these moments. I'm being very real with you guys. I would get on social media. I would say things. I would say things to other people that I regret that I would never say to other people. They were pretty bad stuff. And now I said, you know what? I have control over my emotions. I have control over my mouth. I take every thought captive. What's the truth about this experience, about this moment? And how can I make a different story? By staying focused on truth, not on what I'm trying to avoid, not on the lie that I'm trying to make sure never happens, but on the direction that I'm going. When we do this, we build a framework in our lives and we actually solidify inside of us. It's the same kind of chemical hormone thing that goes on with the negativity. The same thing happens when we're focused on the positivity. We get a vision. We visualize the destination where we're going. We don't become attached to that as far as, okay, I'm going to become disappointed if this doesn't pan out. That's another side to this. If we become fearful that if it doesn't work out how I saw it, now I'm going to be disappointed and feel stuck, and that equates to my value and meaning of my life. But when we say I'm going to trust the process, I know what direction I'm going, I'm going to keep putting one foot in front of the other, this creates massive, massive change in our life, massive, massive transformation, and ultimately compounds over time to create results that we never thought were possible. And so if you're somebody in your life that is trying to go after a goal, you have a vision, you have a destination that you're trying to go after, trust the process. Start speaking life and declaration of what you want to happen over your situation. Put your focus onto where you're going and get it off of the pain that you're trying to avoid. When we do this, we start to then, this is manifestation. Manifestation only happens when you put one foot in front of the other and walk out the path, when you walk into the truth. Just making the declaration is not good enough. You have to put action behind the declaration. And when you do this, when you make a declaration, this becomes a decision that then you walk out. Listen, I can't declare I'm going to make $1 million and then go sit on the couch and play video games all day. And while I love playing video games, a lot of you probably don't know that I actually really enjoyed them. I know when to turn them off and when to go to work and when to make money in a business to provide for my family and to help people like you reach their goals. And so if you have a goal in your life and you're trying to reach another level that you've never been to before, you're afraid of it coming and crashing and burning, experiencing the same pattern that you've had before, I want to encourage you to write down some of those patterns, write down some declarations of what you're going to do, and start to step out in faith and boldness and courage to take steps forward to reach your goals. I did a podcast episode this week called I think it's called, I forget the name of it, Making the Habit of Courageous Actions. And it's turning taking courageous action into a habitual activity in your life. This is where we have to get to, where it becomes a repeated pattern of courageous actions, doing the thing that you're scared of doing in the moment that you're scared of doing it, strategically, consistently. And when we do this, make a habit of courageous actions, our life changes. We start manifesting those visions. It becomes more than just words on a paper, more than just something in our head. It actually becomes the life reality that we're living when we take courageous action. On the one side of courageous action is the life you're living right now. And on the other side of it is that breakthrough that you've been saying, I hope one day I can get to. One day is never going to happen until you start making the habit of taking courageous action. And so I believe that podcast episode is really going to help you do that. I put together a framework for you to start to take courageous action in your life today, this week. I believe that by the time you get done with that episode, your life will be transformed into a new place after that. So check it out. I'll put the link on this post, and we'll talk soon. Grow your life, everybody.